This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vossoughi and Mykie Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mykie Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash Vossoughi, and we are so happy to be with you today. We have a great episode planned for you. Before we get started, Arash, how are you?
I'm great, Mykie. How are you?
I'm doing great. You had such a great video you just recorded for YouTube. I don't think it's up on the channel yet, but it will be soon. And it is the 15 habits that took you from $150,000 in debt to seven figures. And I can't wait to see the video in full, but I wanted to jump in because if you had to pick one habit out of the 15 that made the biggest difference, that carried the most weight, which of the 15 would it be?
For me, looking back, it would be selling. I changed my whole relationship to what sales is. Most people have a bad relationship with what selling is. And I changed it so significantly because I had to gain much greater understanding. What most people don't understand is selling is not something you do to a person, it's something you do for a person. I remember early on that in my career, I was at an event with my mentor, and it was like 9 a.m. on a Sunday. And he walks by me and he said, "Who did you sell?" I said, "Well, it's Sunday." He said, "You sell every day, every day." And he said, "Arash, I will tell you, that's all I think about." And he's the one who taught me what the art of selling was. Selling is something you always do for somebody. I always say there's such a difference between the amateur and the master. The amateur always works on their skill set until they get it right once. Then they stop working on it. The master works on their craft until they can't get it wrong. There's a big difference. And so I remember I just started mastering my presentation, mastering my mindset, because selling is not just your presentation, it's what you're expecting. Most salespeople are not expecting to sell. They're saying they're letting the market dictate them. They're letting it. I coach this week somebody who's in real estate, and he was telling me how slow the market is. And I said, "Well, what does that have to do with you?" Now, I'm sure a lot of realtors who are listening to this are going to be like, "You don't know." But he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I just put my house up for sale, one of my houses up for sale in Flagstaff. I sold it within 24 hours. He said, "Well, how did you do that?" He said, "Because for what I'm seeing, the prices are still high, but no one is moving." And I said, "It's because I knew it was going to sell. I'm just so detached from it." That's what a great salesperson is, so detached. I promise you right now, I got people rolling their eyes. But I'm telling you the truth. Selling is about serving. I heard this quote years ago from King Solomon. He says, "If you have something good, you have a moral obligation to get it in as many people's hands as possible." And I just fell in love with that quote. That became my mantra. I knew I have something good. Like today, I know I have something great that I know I can't help somebody until I sell them. But most people don't look at it like that. Most people look at it, I feel bad. I don't want to charge a certain price. Until you master selling, there is no seven figures. That's just a fact. And you may not be selling what I'm selling, but everyone is selling an idea, product, or service. There's people who could be selling toilet paper. It's a huge business, but they're selling it. I have a client who is going in shops, leveraging other people. Well, that's selling. See, you don't have to have the people to sell. You could be a great connector and you leverage those people's people. That's still selling. But what we have to understand, Until you clear your mindset of what selling is, you're always going to sell by the law of averages, but you're never going to get excellent at it. But people never buy. I want people to burn this in your mind. People never buy what they can afford. People buy what they want the most.
Mm-hmm.
But people are sabotaging their sales because they're assuming where somebody is at. You never assume. Your job is to only sell if it's something that's going to bring great value. Like, I never sell to anybody if it's not great for them. Not if it's not good for them. I want it to be great for them. So what happens when you sell, you change that person's family's life. What happens is, imagine that you are, every time you're selling your product, whatever it is, you're enhancing. And it's creating such a ripple effect of goodness all around you. That's why selling is so important.
Arash, I think so many people have a bad relationship with selling, but they also have a misrepresented idea of what selling is. Of course, most people, whenever you say sale, they jump right to the transaction, but there's so much of sales that is before the transaction and that has nothing to do with the transaction. Like you just mentioned, the mindset. You're also constantly selling ideas. Like whenever Bob walked by you and said, you sell every day, he was selling you on the idea of that, which ended up changing your life or changing your whole relationship with sales. So will you talk about that as well?
My mind is going in so many directions right now. Because you used a word which poor salespeople do, is they're transactional salespeople. So they get the sale, they never continue to cultivate the relationship, and really what they're doing is coming from a getting place. You want to be a relational sales professional. But before I even get into this, selling is the highest paid profession in the world. But selling is also the lowest paid profession. So which end of the spectrum do you want to be on? I could tell anybody they can write their own ticket if they will work on two things. If they will work on their skill set of their presentation of what they're selling and make it so good. And if they'll work on their mindset. A great salesperson decides every morning when they wake up what they're going to create. Every morning what they're going to create. We as humans are want creators. A sales professional is a want creator. You're getting the prospects want and filling the solution for them. That's what selling is. But when we're transactional, you're not going to attract much good to you. You want to be a relational salesperson. And when you learn this skill, I don't care what happens, you are going to bulletproof yourself to create your own economy. That's why I get this little nudge in my gut when somebody tells me I'm great at sales. You can get better. If you run, you can run faster. If you jump, you could jump higher. But really, they could be very good at their presentation, but their mindset could be very bad. So they're not going to sell a lot. So what we have to ask the question, what is a question a lot of people get with their products? What if it doesn't work? So what is that question saying? The prospect is telling you, I want you to overcome my false assumptions and false beliefs. That's what the prospect's telling you. What if the sales professional said, I want you to look at what you're doing. What you're doing isn't working. Would you agree with that? But what if it does work? What if you actually use my idea, product, and service and really watch what it's going to do for you? Because if it's worked for other people, it'll work for you. See, we have to be ahead of it, and we have to serve the heck out of the person. It's all about service. That's what selling is.
So I think that there's also a common belief that someone might think, I'm not a good salesperson, or I am a great salesperson, and that's just part of their identity. You tell this story that I love about whenever you just started in sales, you gave this presentation that was horrible. You were doing like the walk of shame to your car. You apologized. It was so bad. So I thought you could tell that story, but also tell it so that people can see you're not just born a good salesperson or a bad, I mean, we're all born great salespeople. And if you have kids, you know that, but, it's a skill that you can develop no matter what your current skill sets are.
Everything is learnable. There's nothing that isn't learnable. Selling is learnable. I was in the corporate world. I was just starting, and I went and did this presentation to this business. When I say it was bad, I'm not even saying it properly. It was horrendously bad. It was that bad. Like, I was stumbling over my words, and I remember walking out, and it was the walk of shame. And I remember the thought that went in my mind. I don't want to go back to school to get a master's. Like, I was done with school. And I said to myself, you better figure this out. I didn't get proper training, but I took the training on my own. And I said, I've got to figure out how to connect with these people. Well, I ended up being at the bottom of that company. In 2 years, I became vice president of sales. And I taught myself how to do it because I knew I needed to figure this out. Anybody right now who thinks they're not good at sales, what you're saying is, I don't understand selling and I don't prioritize it. I will tell you, everybody can learn how to sell, and it's the most important skill set you can learn. I tell my kids this, I don't care what they do, they can do whatever they want to do. But the one thing I have been very clear at, they're going to learn how to sell. Whatever it is they want to do. They could be a doctor, great. It doesn't matter to me. But that's the one skill set that is the most important skill set.
What do you think is the number one thing that holds people back in sales?
Belief. They have a bad relationship to it. They're afraid to give the price. They don't have a good presentation. See, people are never saying no to you. They're saying no to your presentation. So what happens, a lot of people have fear of rejection. So they go into their next sales meeting already knowing they're going to be rejected because they don't understand it. They think they're rejecting them. People are never rejecting you. They're rejecting your presentation. And so you want to really understand, whenever you sell something, you are putting so much good if you're selling something good. So the first person we have to sell is ourselves. We have to sell ourselves on our goal, on our daily goal, what we're going to accomplish. That's why we want to create a paradigm of selling, then selling becomes automatic. I always talk about how success and failure are both automatic, so is selling. I don't care how many leads you have, you can cultivate it. You have a mouth, you have ears, so you could listen to people. Most people are trying to get better results in their comfort zone, and it never happens.
So what you just said is why I think sales is so universal, and it is such a mindset. We were on a peak performers call yesterday, and you talked about how every morning you face resistance and you have to sell yourself on the idea of starting the day the way that you told yourself you were going to start the day. So will you talk about how the first thing when you wake up, you're selling yourself before you start doing any sales presentations? You're the first person you have to sell.
Yeah, first person. I mean, I know when I get up, the resistance is strong. It says, just sleep for 10 more minutes. And I know if I'm going to have a great day, I have to beat that resistance, and I jump out of bed. I jump out of bed right away. Resistance is the reason 99% of people fail, because they're constantly giving into that resistance. That resistance could be settling. That resistance is letting the outside control the inside. That resistance is holding back. That resistance is lying to yourself. The resistance is negotiating with yourself. So we first have to beat resistance. And that's why most people don't succeed at selling, because they have a resistance to selling. They think, oh, my product and service, that's a lot of money. It's not a little or a lot. It's just what the value of whatever your product, idea, or service is. That's all it is. And we've got to get in the habit of planting a lot of seeds, because we reap what we sow. Most people are planting very few seeds. And then they look at their results. They say, I don't understand. Why are the results not happening? See, a lot of people will study. How many people do we hear say, they listen to podcasts, they read books, and that doesn't mean you're doing it. See, we've got to take our personal development work into action. Action of implementing is where you contribute. And you're never going to contribute at a higher level than when you work with somebody.
You know what's so funny? I've heard this so many times. I know you have too. Someone will face resistance and they'll think, oh, that's a sign from the universe that I shouldn't do this. Or that's a sign from the universe that, I'm going the wrong way, or I shouldn't go after this goal, not understanding that resistance is a natural part of the process and that your paradigm is going to resist you every step of the way on your way to a big goal. So will you talk about that specifically?
Yeah, the resistance is not there to stop you. It's there to test you to see how badly you want something. So action kills resistance in moments, literally in moments. But it's not there to say you shouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. What happened is resistance kicked your butt, and that's why you're not doing a thing. Resistance used to beat me so bad. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. Still today, sometimes it beats me. If I'm not really consciously aware, it'll beat me. So it's not like I'm saying you all experience resistance and I don't. We all have resistance. That's why W. Clement Stone was such a huge giant for me. I never met the man. He had already passed when I started getting into this work, but I studied his work. And he had 2 quotes that just changed the game for me. He said, you can never think yourself out of fear. And he said, do it now. And from that moment, when I really committed, I did it now. I was telling this story yesterday on our peak performers training, and I said, I found this letter that I wrote to myself. It was a contract. And I was struggling so bad at this point. This was about 18 years ago. And on this couple paragraphs I wrote to myself, it was so funny reading it. But I wrote, I am committed to creating a life of freedom for my family. And I didn't have a family then. I had my wife, but I didn't have kids yet. But I said, I remember reading this the other night, and I said, by the time I have kids, I want them to have so much more than what I have. And I am going to figure this out. It was like a real contract, and I signed it. And it was so liberating to read because I was looking back, because sometimes you forget all the challenges, the adversities you face. And I'm only sharing this for somebody who's plateaued right now. Write a contract to yourself. Be determined that you're going to do it. Like if you looked at me at that time, I was in a really bad spot and I still wrote the contract. And I really started working on this every day. And selling is so important because this is such a game changer. Just look at the top companies. Like forget about what I'm saying. They all are selling a product. Look at Apple. What is it selling? A product. Look at any idea, product, or service of somebody you admire. They're always promoting. Why? Because they know their product's good and it is their moral obligation to get it in as many people's hands as possible. So I've got a question. What is your relationship with selling? Like, is this creating so much resistance for you? Or is this waking you up? Mm-hmm. Because I will tell you, this is the one habit that I created that not only took me to a 7 figures, took our business to 8+ figures, and it's going to take us to 9 figures.
Arash, let's bring resistance over to sales too, because there's so many business owners and they know what they need to do to grow their business is to prospect, or they know what they need to do to grow their business is to get on more sales calls, and they're having a resistance to that, or they get on a presentation and they face resistance from the person they're talking to and they fold. So let's bring resistance right over to the forefront of sales specifically and how you deal with that.
Well, you have to, it's kind of like my message all over. It's first off, you got to decide if you're going to sell today. Are you going to sell? If you don't decide you're going to sell, the world is going to decide for you. And so you're not going to sell. And so that's the first thing, but you have to sell yourself first. But you have to make sure you believe in the idea, product, or service you're selling. So if you don't believe in it, you're going to send out a double binding message. You're going to say it's good, but you don't believe it, and people are going to pick it up. So then you've got to decide what your goals are. You have to have a daily goal. How many people am I going to get in front of today? How many people am I going to reach out to? And you start creating really good relationships. If you start stacking the right amount of seeds every day, you're going to be set up to win as long as you keep working on your presentation every day. When I first started this, I would be in front of my mirror, and it was super weird. It was super uncomfortable. And I'd look myself in the eye and do a presentation. Then I kept doing it over and over and over and over again until it became a part of my identity. Like, I don't believe in scripting. I'm not saying scripts are bad. I believe in being human, connecting, because that's what people are connecting to. People want to help good people. People will never buy from you if they don't trust you. So if you're just reading off a script and don't master the script and make it part of you, you're not going to create a connection. See, we don't sell from our conscious mind to their conscious mind. We're selling from our emotional mind to their emotional mind. That's where the connection is. Selling is a heart-to-heart connection. And so the more you are detached from the sale, that's when the sales are going to be coming in. You never are forcing, you're never chasing, you attract it by the person you become. And that's so important to understand.
Okay, so let's get into an action step for today and bring this episode in for a landing.
Well, really, the action step is, what is my relationship with selling? Do I believe it's about service? Do I truly believe on every cell in my being it's something I do for somebody, or am I doing it to somebody? Do I believe in the idea of product I sell? Am I a transactional sales professional, or am I a relational salesperson? Mm-hmm. When you're relational, that's when transformation happens. And these clients are going to be there for you for the rest of your life. And here's the deal. They may outgrow you, and you let them go, and you're so grateful for the time you had with them. But one thing, don't make excuses. Don't say I don't have enough leads. All you're doing is going into lack and limitation. You're a creator. You're a want creator. I'm a want creator. There's somebody right now in this very second who wants exactly what you have to offer. Go align yourself with these people and start doing it regularly. And that's where sales will become automatic.
Such a fantastic episode, Arash. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review. Share this with your friends and family members. And we'll see you next week on another episode of the 7-Figure Standard Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mykie and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.